For years now, PocketDol Studio has been at the center of disturbing allegations, with countless stories of idol mistreatment surfacing time and time again. It seems like this toxic cycle has been going on for far longer than anyone imagined, ruining not just one group, but multiple artists and groups under their care. This talent agency may sound just like any other evil K-pop company, but its story is far more sinister than it seems. Originally established as a subsidiary of MBK Entertainment, PocketDol Studio was created to produce audition programs. Back in the day, MBK was a powerhouse in the K-pop industry, managing some of the biggest names like Tiara, SG Wannabe, and Davichi. During its peak, the company had massive influence, even being compared to giants like SM, JYP, YG, and DSP. With top-tier entertainers such as Lee Hyori, Shin Dong-yeop, and Lee Youngja on their roster, MBK seemed unstoppable. However, the company's downfall began with one of the most infamous K-pop controversies of the early 2000s, the Tiara mistreatment scandal. Chaos unfolded as Tiara members were accused of mistreating fellow member Dohyon. The situation turned into a PR disaster that MBK never fully recovered from. By 2022, the company made the strategic decision to rebrand as PocketDol Studio, likely in an attempt to distance itself from the bad publicity that haunted MBK for years. But just changing the name wasn't enough to shake off the haunting past of the company. PocketDol Studio inherited not just MBK's assets, but also its problematic management style. Signs of mistreatment appeared as early as DIA's career. Despite having been active for 7 years, DIA barely had 15 comebacks, and their schedules were plagued by long hiatuses, with a 2-year gap between their last 2 big comebacks. Shockingly, the members also faced health issues, leading to many suddenly leaving the group. Fans noticed that even when DIA was active, their promotions were poorly managed, raising suspicions about how seriously the company was investing in their careers. It wasn't just DIA that faced these issues. PocketDol also managed groups born out of reality shows like the Uni-T and Under 19, forming groups like UNB, UNIT, and One the Nine. Although these shows gained attention and had promising starts, the company failed to make these groups shine. Despite their potential, the artists suffered from minimal promotion and terrible management, leading to early disbandments. Even when Jung Chaeyeon from DIA and Nam Dohyon from X1 gained an insane amount of recognition through popular survival shows, PocketDol completely failed to capitalize on their popularity. As if poor management wasn't bad enough, MBK's questionable reputation was further damaged when it was revealed that the company was involved in the infamous Produce 101 voting manipulation scandal. During Produce 101, it was discovered that the company had directed false online voting by purchasing tens of thousands of IDs. The revelation confirmed what many had suspected, that the company was willing to exploit the system for its own gain, regardless of how it might impact its artists. Things didn't exactly get better once MBK rebranded to PocketDol Studio. In fact, it might have gotten worse. One of the most heartbreaking cases of mistreatment under PocketDol Studio is that of BAE173. Despite being one of the company's only remaining active groups, BAE173 has faced endless struggles since before it even debuted. BAE173 was thrown into the exhausting world of survival shows from the very start. Members were sent to multiple programs like Peak Time, Project 7, and Starlight Boys, as if the company was desperate to make them relevant through any means necessary. Hangyul, a former X1 member, seemed particularly worn down by the process. After being put on survival shows repeatedly, he was visibly exhausted during Peak Time and even asked CEO Kim Kwang-soo if it would be his last survival show. It was clear that the constant competition was taking a toll on him and that he wanted out. Although the members were already exploited enough as trainees, the company didn't back down once they became a group. When they won competitions like the second-gen round on Peak Time, they received none of the promised benefits. Fans had to call out both Mnet and PocketDol Studio before the company finally acknowledged the win. To make matters worse, the group's special stage, which they had earned through their victory, was abruptly cancelled for no reason. Fans were left confused and frustrated, as there was no explanation from the company or the broadcasting network. It's not just about missed opportunities either. BAE173's comebacks are consistently delayed without explanation. When content like teasers or MV posts is released, it's usually at the very last minute or without any promo buildup. Sometimes teaser drops don't even make it to official accounts, leaving fans completely in the dark. There's no strategy, no consistency, and worst of all, no genuine care for the well-being of the artists. They have never been sent to major K-pop events like KCON, and their content on YouTube is often edited by the members themselves. That's right, BAE173 confirmed that they not only film but also edit and subtitle their own videos because there's simply no staff to do it for them. This dedication and effort might seem endearing at first, but it really just highlights how little support they get from their own agency. Fans are starting to catch on to PocketDol Studio's hiatus strategy strategy too. The company uses the word hiatus as a scapegoat for neglect, leaving BAE173 in limbo without any updates or future perspective. Instead of focusing on proper promotions, PocketDol Studio just recycles the boys through more survival shows. As you can notice, the company doesn't even care enough to properly take care of the members' health. During the filming of Starlight Boys, Hangul was hospitalized after being forced to dance in brutal conditions with little to no breaks. This wasn't the only time such a problem occurred. It's a continuous pattern of the company putting its artists' health on the line for the sake of content. Member Yujin has also shown signs of being overworked, admitting that his hands shake from anxiety and lack of sleep. Even member Muzin has been sending out concerning messages on Bubble since 2022, hinting at stress, burnout, and emotional exhaustion. Yet no concrete action has been taken to support him or address these cries for help. Meanwhile, the group continues to be pushed from one survival show to the next, as if PocketDol Studio's entire strategy revolves around exploiting their idols' willingness to compete rather than investing in their talents. The worst part about this entire situation is that even their safety isn't prioritized. During Dohyon's graduation, fans witnessed a terrifying situation where Sasayang swarmed him, yet not a single manager was around to intervene. Instead, his teachers had to step in and protect him, leaving fans furious at the lack of professional oversight. There have also been multiple instances where fan sites reported that the members of BAE173 were left alone at their schedules, wandering without any staff to guide, manage, or protect them. Throughout all of the mistreatment, not all members stayed silent. One of the most shocking responses came from Dohyon, who bravely took legal action against PocketDol Studio. He filed a lawsuit to terminate his contract, claiming that the agency violated the exclusive contract by failing to provide payment data and not offering adequate care, especially considering that he was still a teenager at the time. Fans were shocked when they found out about Dohyon's lawsuit, which wasn't even made through an official statement, but through public court documents. PocketDol Studio didn't even bother to inform the fanbase, and as the legal battle unfolded, Sasashangs began chasing him. The company's lack of protection during this time was almost on purpose, as they left him completely vulnerable, seemingly as punishment for daring to fight back. What made the situation even more infuriating was how the company seemed to ignore Dohyon's well-being entirely. Despite being an essential part of BAE173 and even writing songs for the group without ever being credited, Dohyon was constantly pushed to his limits. During his hiatus, which was supposed to be for health reasons, the company even made him work in Japan, treating his recovery like an inconvenience. Dohyon's perseverance finally paid off when the court ruled in his favor, allowing him to suspend his contract with the company. However, PocketDol didn't take the loss quietly. In a move that many saw as spiteful, they released a statement claiming that Dohyon had left without permission during his activities, painting him as the one at fault. They made it clear that they would continue the legal battle, refusing to acknowledge the court's ruling in favor of Dohyon. Fans were quick to point out the irony. How could they accuse him of leaving without permission when they had been exploiting him even throughout his hiatus? Fans also noticed that the studio seemed more focused on dragging Dohyun's name through the mud rather than reflecting on their own mistreatment. Many felt that this reaction was typical of PocketDol, a company known for never taking accountability. BAE173 isn't the only group PocketDol has been exploiting since the start, because the members of CLASS undeniably experienced similar torment. The group, also known as My Teenage Dream Girls, debuted after competing on a survival show, which is classic of PocketDol. Despite their promising start, the group quickly fell into a cycle of poor management and mistreatment by M25 Entertainment, a subsidiary company of PocketDol Studio. The group made their long-awaited comeback on November 15, 2024, after being on hiatus for 751 long days. Fans had been desperate for updates throughout that period, repeatedly asking the company when the girls would finally return. Instead of giving clear answers, the company responded with vague statements, not letting anyone know what would happen next. The group's sudden disappearance from the spotlight led many people to assume that CLASS had disbanded. After all, it's not uncommon for groups to quietly fade away when their agency decides to randomly stop promoting them. After PocketDol announced their comeback in October of 2024, fans started having faith again. However, that excitement quickly turned to disappointment when the official tracklist for their third mini-album was revealed. Despite it being a full-blown album, it only contained 2 songs. After such a long hiatus, the comeback felt like a rushed afterthought rather than a properly planned return to the music scene. It's an understatement to say fans were disappointed, calling this an absolutely ridiculous comeback. To make matters worse, the physical album release was delayed not once, but 4 times. times. Initially scheduled to drop on November 15th, the same day as the digital release, the album wasn't shipped out until December 28th, a painful 42 days later. Fans who had eagerly pre-ordered were left waiting without any updates, and when the album finally arrived, it was a disaster. The photo book, which fans expected to be filled with high-quality images and content, turned out to be nothing more than 14 pages loosely stapled together, far from the professional standards set by previous albums. Fans were furious, feeling that the company had once again taken their loyalty for granted. Just when fans thought things couldn't get more disastrous, M25 Entertainment scheduled 2 fan meetings in Japan but didn't bother promoting them at all. Instead of actively spreading the word, they posted just the bare minimum: a simple fan meeting announcement and a repost from the ticket provider. Even the official schedule turned out to be a mess. The company forgot to post fan meeting dates on the official fan cafe, leaving members to apologize on behalf of the agency for the lack of communication. This lack of care doesn't just affect the group's image, it also deeply impacts the members themselves. After being on hiatus for so long, CLASS expressed their desire to connect with fans, even writing and producing a special song during their time away. Chaewon wrote the lyrics, Hyeju created the choreography, and both Hyeju and Seonyu filmed a special video. Yet, even after putting in all that effort, the company didn't bother to spread the word. Concept photos weren't uploaded to social media, leaving fans to scrape together screenshots from music shows just to see glimpses of the project. Adding to this mistreatment is the issue of online harassment. Despite many classy members being minors, they frequently face inappropriate comments and harassment online. Fans have begged the company to step up and protect the girls, but M25 has repeatedly failed to address these issues. Instead, they continue sending CLASS to perform at military events in short outfits, despite knowing how uncomfortable and unsafe this could be for the girls. This isn't surprising considering that the company is known to comment on their bodies. In an older clip, their former CEO Sung-hee told the girls have no choice but to lose weight if they want to look pretty, showing that the group was subjected to harsh standards despite their young age. This year, the company has once again found itself under fire, but for the mistreatment of the rookie group Fantasy Boys. Formed through yet another survival show, the group debuted with high hopes and tons of fan support. However, it didn't take long for red flags to start appearing, and recently, fans have been more worried than ever before. One of the most alarming incidents occurred during a live stream where everything initially seemed normal. The members smiled and chatted with fans, but then something unexpected happened. Minseo raised his hand and folded his thumb into his palm, closing his fingers over it. While some might dismiss this as a random gesture, many fans immediately recognized it as a known distress signal, one originally created to help victims secretly communicate that they were in danger during video calls. The brief moment sent shockwaves through the entire industry. Fans started looking back at past footage, and to their surprise, they found something similar. During an April 1st performance of Undeniable on the show, Hanbin appeared to make the same gesture during his ending fairy. At the time, no one paid much attention, but now fans have started making sense of it. As netizens dug deeper into Fantasy Boys' activities, it became clear that the distress signals were just the tip of the iceberg. From the very beginning, the group's schedule had been brutal. Right after Fantasy Boys aired, the members were thrown into non-stop work, including recording sessions, fan concerts in Japan, and promotions in Korea. Former member K-Sol even mentioned that he was happy to have gotten just 8 hours of sleep in an entire week, a shocking statement that highlighted just how overworked they were. Fans couldn't help but notice the rushed nature of their comebacks, as well as the chaotic schedule that left the members drained and overwhelmed. Multiple members fell sick. Hikaru missed one event and Seungmin skipped the rest of the Japan schedule. One of the most worrying incidents involved Hanbin, who was hospitalized multiple times during promotions, requiring IV drips to keep going. Despite his obvious health issues and even ear bleeding, the company didn't allow him to recover. The breaking point came when his grandfather passed away, but instead of giving him a break to grieve, the company had him back on a music show just a day later. The company's disregard for the group was highlighted once again when Kaden went on hiatus without any official announcement. Fans only found out when stores that were selling albums mentioned that he wouldn't be participating. Instead of informing the fandom directly, the company remained silent, leaving members to casually address it in a TikTok video. By now, it's more than clear that PocketDol Studio's pattern of mistreatment isn't just an isolated mistake, it's a structural issue that continues to harm idols, leaving fans to wonder just how many more stories like this will come to light before a change is made.